Have a cruise coming up and wondering what excursions you should book? Are you unsure what's worth the hype, money, or convenience? Or maybe you're thinking about building your own excursion from scratch. On today's episode, we share how we decide if a cruise excursion is worth it.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Welcome.
We're actually in it.
I was about to say, we did it.
Yeah, we
actually did it.
We did it. We're on it. We're recording, and we're ready to launch 1 week after kind of our back to it episode.
Yeah.
If you can call it an episode, it's kind of just like
like a trailer.
Teaser,
almost.
trailer. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, trailer.
Can I just say one thing really quick about movie trailers? Now that I'm thinking about putting together a teaser.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that every movie trailer is like the whole movie? And then you don't feel like you have to watch it anymore. It hasn't always been like that, right?
No. I don't know when that started, but it
definitely did. Like, it's changed, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I almost feel like because now so many movies are based on books or musicals or they're remakes of movies.
Oh, so you already know it.
Right. It's like, oh, we just assume you know the story, so let us show you how we're going to tell it. And it's
I think I've spent like an hour looking at Netflix or any other streaming service, and they just like, I watch.
Yeah, there it goes.
It's like the Cliff Notes. I'm like, I guess I already saw it.
Yeah.
It's not really. But anyway, hopefully
that was random.
Hopefully we didn't give away everything for today's episode on our teaser trailer last week. But
I don't think so.
We're glad to be back. And thanks to everybody who reached out with congratulations on our baby news.
It's so nice. You know, I just don't expect that because, you know, it's so exciting and special, like, to be expecting, but at the same time, it's not like this crazy thing that like never happens to anybody. You know what I mean? It's like it's pretty common to have a baby, so it always surprises me how excited and nice people get when you announce it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that being said, we also just want to acknowledge anybody that might have heard that, and it's hard to hear sometimes because, you know, we're kind of struggling to get there ourselves. So we're right there with you. We feel you.
Yes. We're sending much love your way.
Definitely.
So on to cruise news and cruise travel. And specifically today, we're going to talk about excursions because while like cruising to me can be like fun for many aspects, and one of them is absolutely the boat, like the actual transportation of getting there. Obviously, another reason that we like cruises and not just like all-inclusives as much is because you do get to visit different places and kind of experience different things.
Definitely. I think it's its own style of travel. It comes with pros and cons, but it is nice. There's a lot of options out there for cruises, and you can see quite a bit in a short time. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you haven't seen or listened to our like other cruise episode where we kind of went through the different types of cruises, that's probably a better one to start at. Unless you already have one in mind and you're just trying to figure out excursions right now, then this might be a better one to start with. But generally speaking, don't come in thinking that like all cruises are the same because they definitely are not.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, there can be many pros and cons. So we're talking today mostly about kind of like the mid to large range cruises, like kind of your typical,
what most people think of.
Yeah, like your Celebrity Cruise, your Virgin Voyages, your Royal Caribbean, like those types of cruises.
You're like 3,000 person boat.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about the specialty cruises that you may or may not have heard of, like things that are like expeditions or small boat.
Variety cruises, right? There's like the little tiny ones.
Or like the ones that go to Antarctica.
Right.
You know, those are very different and specific and cool, but not today.
Yeah, it's just not, exactly. Not what we're really focusing on. Today we're focusing on the mainstream cruises.
Kind of like your, what would you call leisure cruises?
Leisure,
like, right?
Yeah.
Travel leisure,
yeah. So if you haven't been on a cruise, I will just tell you that people can be wild when it comes to booking excursions.
Oh, yeah. It's like Disney dining reservations.
Yeah, it can be wild. Now, not all of them are, and sometimes you can be fine being, a couple weeks, even months after.
Or on the boat.
Yeah, or on the boat when your window opens to book them, stuff.
Yeah.
But some of them, like, literally, your window opens at midnight and people are on there booking things at midnight. So just so you know, because that can come as a shock to people, and then all of a sudden you go to book stuff and you're like, nothing is open. That might be the reason why. So maybe that's your jam and you're like ready to go, Hunger Games for your favorite excursion or excursion time. Maybe that's not your jam, and then you kind of just figure out what's left and pick from there, or don't pick one at all, which we're going to talk about today too.
Right. So we just want to save you like the panic of feeling like you have to impulsively jump on something.
Right.
So you get an idea of how can you sort out what's worth doing and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Because not all excursions are worth doing.
No, definitely not.
And sometimes,
or the money too.
I was going to say, sometimes an excursion, you should just skip it. You should do something on your own, honestly. And I will say, one of the biggest times I remember thinking that is when we were on this Disney cruise and we met like the loveliest people. So this is a very quick story, but in a Disney cruise, you do typically get sat with other like couples or families or whatever. Like they sit people together.
For dinner.
Right, for dinner, sorry, yeah. Which I was like not really looking forward to. I'm not going to lie. Like, and I'm pretty outgoing.
Well, our experiences before then were not like that, but I think that's actually typical on most cruises. So
I think that was like a COVID thing that like we kind of started cruising after COVID. So like some of those things were still in place. Like you eat dinner by yourselves, like, normal, like at your own table.
Like any other day.
Yeah. But Disney cruise is kind of like a more traditional cruise where you get paired up with people. And I was really, really not looking forward to it.
Right. And like we weren't, it's like going to camp or something.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
you're
it
just gonna
is.
be your buddy for the week.
Right. And you're kind of like, okay, I hope I like them because like I'm sharing like a fairly intimate portion of my day. Like eating dinner is not just like, oh, we'll sit next to you in a theater.
Right.
It's like you're literally sitting and eating. And I do want to point out, if you really just didn't vibe with the person, you could have asked to change. So it wasn't like you're stuck.
Then if you see them later, like, do you really do that?
I think you do. I think you'd rather the like awkward like
the Band-Aid rip off and
that besides like literally suffering through a 7-night cruise eating with someone that you're not
luckily
vibing with.
We've not had to do that, and I think I don't know what kind of magic they pulled together to like profile us.
We were probably the coolest couple.
Yeah, it made sense the way they matched us up. I'm like, they must be buying our data off Facebook and Instagram and just who knows. So
no, but really we sat next to people. They're on their honeymoon. And they're a couple years younger than us, but just like we were so in line with so many things. And especially because on a Disney cruise, like we've said this before, but like we're Disney people, but not Disney people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you can read between the lines there. We
were also there because we got a really cheap travel agent deal.
Right, exactly.
Which was nice because we know Disney is very expensive, and I
is.
Still say with kids, I think it's one of the best.
Oh, I don't know if you can beat it, but it definitely caters to a certain crowd, and we also like we're not big character people. Like we're not like lining up to meet Mickey Mouse or whatever. We just like Disney. We like the like stage it creates essentially. Like we like the
they do
theater
good on
creates.
shows, and they're excellent customer service and experience.
And it just like creates a kind of ambiance. Anyways, my
That's
point
true.
of that story is that these people also liked that part of Disney, and were also not really necessarily like big like character people, but liked it for all the reasons that we liked it. And we're like, how did you find
someone that matched?
Yeah, someone that was exactly the same. Anyways, my point of telling you this is they were on their honeymoon. They had an excursion booked for every single day that we were there. So it was nice because we ate dinner with them every day. So we would say like, how was today? How was the excursion? Whatever. And they had some really great things, but they definitely had a couple that they were kind of like, we probably could have done our own thing. And it would have been fine.
If money's no issue and you just don't care really, and I think for them it was definitely a honeymoon. So a lot of things, they're doing the spa, they're doing everything.
Yeah.
So I think it was nice to hear what was worth it.
Yeah.
Like what would you actually repeat? What was whatever, And I think it was a decent mix.
It was a decent mix, but my point is just to say like there's absolutely no reason that you need an excursion every day.
Right.
Like you can, and in fact, let's talk about that Disney cruise is a very good example of a time when you could have booked an excursion, and it definitely was not worth it, in our opinion.
Definitely.
So, one of the examples of the Disney cruise excursion, and this is again, we're in Northern Europe. In this particular port, we were in Stockholm, but like not really. We were like an hour outside of Stockholm.
Yes. Oh, this is something important to note. I think it's changing still. As these boats get bigger, or even the ones that are already big, a lot of these destinations, at least in Europe, are forcing these boats to go elsewhere.
Yeah, or like outside of town.
Yeah, because I mean, there's too many people. I think, you know, I get that. Like, it can be too much, you know.
Absolutely. Everything. I want to make sure that whatever we're doing is also not hurting the environment as much as possible. So I'm all for it. But it's just good to know that you were an hour outside of Stockholm. So you had to obviously get there. There was nothing to do where we ported. Right. So it was really like...
Yeah, except like it's industrial, essentially.
Yeah, it was like a neighborhood.
Right.
Which is fine, but just, you know, you want to get to Stockholm. So one of the options for a excursion, quote unquote excursion, was literally just the transfer...
To Stockholm
from the boat. And I actually looked it up, and it was... over $100 a person. It was like $109
per person, not
109
per cabin.
No, per person. So for Bruce and I, $220 plus tax. So you could pay that, and literally it was a bus ride. It was nothing else. They were literally taking you from the boat and dropping you off, and then coming and getting you and taking you back. But you could also walk a quarter of a mile to the train station and take a train directly to Stockholm for €6.
Yep.
The bus took 45 minutes. And I looked it up. The train takes 53. So it's not like you're saving half an hour or an hour or two. It's minutes.
It's a great example of, I'm not going to knock anybody who pays for this. Because if you don't feel comfortable.
Thing too. Right,
yeah,
exactly.
or like maybe mobility.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I want to take the guaranteed transport. Because that's one of the things, when you do it through the boat. You're not going to miss the boat. They can't leave you behind.
Right. That is a big one.
So these are some general benefits of always doing it with the boat is that if they sponsor it, they will not leave you behind.
Yep.
And you're pretty much, it's already vetted. You know what you're getting, but you're almost always going to pay.
Right. I mean, actually, the vetted thing can't be understated. So like if you are a nervous traveler or you just don't travel that often, but you want to start getting out there and you are not that comfortable, like vetting kind of your own travel companies, especially on a cruise ship, because there are a lot of people, they know cruises are coming in and they kind of like, I hate the word prey, but they do kind of prey on people that they know. It happens,
and it's in different places. Like there's no denying that certain crimes will occur in these hotspots, especially like pickpocket or whatever. But like people
or even
who
like
are trying to sell
overcharging
you
for taxi kind of things.
That's yep.
So if you are not like you don't know how to vet, or you just don't feel comfortable with it, or you have your grandkids with it, whatever it is, and you just don't feel like it. That is a nice thing about the excursions is Disney has like stamped it essentially. They're not putting their name on anything that they're not pretty sure is amazing, because it's Disney or it's Royal Caribbean or, they have a lot to lose.
Right. So those are some general benefits, but this is an example of like, if you were comfortable and you wanted to walk and see and just take the train, man, it's just not worth buying the van to take you there.
No, save $100 a person.
You're saving so much money. And unlike, now I could understand if it was more than a transport, like let's say it was an actual tour or an event you're going to and they provide the transport. But this is one to look for because you'll see if it's just transportation, there's almost always a way to go around it. But if you've never been somewhere, if you're not used to public transport, I could totally understand why maybe on your boat where you're looking to maybe relax and have things, take the easy route, not worry about doing a lot of adventuring on your own and figuring it out. I think this is a great option, but you're going to pay for it. Just know that.
Yeah. And for us, that was absolutely 1,000% not worth it.
Right.
We'd much rather save the money. We're good at public transport. There were tons of people with their kids and everybody else that did the same thing we did. We all walked together.
Yeah. If anything, the power of numbers on these things, like even if you're on the fence and you're like, well, I've never done it, but like, generally, you're probably going to have a lot of people that are doing it too. So just follow the crowd.
Yeah, we probably helped a dozen people.
Oh, yeah, to buy their tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, people aren't mean. Like, they're standing right there. They're like, oh, yeah, sure. That's how you do it.
And you could look it up ahead of time. It was totally something you could have looked up. So it depends on how much effort you want to put in and time and stress versus money, you know?
Another one that wasn't worth it, according to our friends that we sat with, I remember they went like kayaking, I think. And they said that it was just like in a bay.
Right.
And they were kind of like, there wasn't a lot to do, and it kind of was just like in and out. But there, when you're on the water already, you're probably, what am I trying to say? When you go kayaking and stuff, it's like exciting to be on the water, and so you're like, oh, it's, we're on the water and we're not usually on the water, but like if you're already on the cruise.
Yeah, if there's not much more added to it,
right.
and I bet you it's another one that perhaps you could have booked it yourself. It probably would have been cheaper.
Right.
So it's
and it was like literally kayaking next to where the boat is. Right. So it's like, unless you just really love kayaking for kayaking's sake.
Yep.
Then it really wasn't one. So, some of those are good to really research. Like, where are they going? Are they going to this like really cool special place to kayak? Or are they literally just kayaking where you're already poured in?
It was like in Copenhagen, we kayaked through the
canals.
Yes, canals versus by the boat out in the port.
Right, exactly.
Like,
so that would have been worth it, canals, but not next to the boat. So that one for us is a not worth it example. The kayaking next to the boat and also like paying for the transportation.
Yep.
And almost worth it. Like we wouldn't buy this again. Not even 100% sure I would necessarily recommend it, but it wasn't terrible. Like I was like, all right, it's fine. But also not really our choice.
Situationally had to, but
yeah, in Mykonos. So this is actually our first excursion ever. If we think back on it.
Yeah, it was our first cruise, first excursion.
First excursion, yeah. We weren't going to buy any excursions. We were going to do it all on our own. But we had to buy this one literally the night before because there was all of a sudden a COVID restriction that said you couldn't leave the boat on the island unless you had a booked excursion, which was very annoying, honestly, but it's fine.
We were lucky to be there, I think, even with COVID. But this is a great example of, luckily we're not in the midst of COVID, but if you're going to a destination where there are restrictions or specifications, you should look that up ahead of time because you may not be able to easily do anything on your own. It might be a place that you need to get an excursion.
Right.
So
that is very true.
This is just an example. Like we had no choice. If we wanted to get off the boat in Mykonos and do something, we had to pick one.
Yeah. We had a couple of options. The one we ended up choosing was one to a Greek Orthodox church. Bruce grew up Orthodox, so we were still like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like there's a lot of cultural significance to that and everything else, and that was actually the best part. So there was kind of a few parts of this one. One was to visit the monastery, and then one was to have like a little like meal at a taverna, and then the other one was what they called a scenic tour,
which is just the bus ride.
It was not a scenic. That was the thing that was the lamest.
Yeah, somebody kind of like mumbling on the microphone, which it was fine.
Drove through the countryside,
which better than nothing.
It is better, 100% better than nothing. But that was very like, all right.
That was your classic like, put your sticker on, follow the flag.
Yes.
Get
literally,
in,
we
get
wore
out.
A sticker. Yeah. I have pictures. We have our little like 2 or whatever.
Now I gotta say, like, not that this was an excursion, but the tour we did in London, that was
like Stonehenge. And all
that was way worth it because the tour guide was incredible and added to the experience because they were historians.
Yeah,
like,
and it was a good way to get around the places.
Don't knock every guided tour situation. Some of them are very worth buying it, But this was an example of like what you fear, what not you fear, but what the people would be like, ugh, why would you ever try to see a place like that?
Yeah, we didn't really see it. I would still need to go back, I think, because we saw it out the window as you're going. Like, it's just not the same.
Yep.
So the scenic tour part, not worth it at all. Tour guide was nice, but not very easy to understand, and then like kind of in the microphone mumbly, and then you're just like in a big bus. Like, I don't know. Anyways, we went to the monastery though. That was very cool. We got to see a little bit of the service and learned a good amount about the history of the building and traditions. We saw some iconography. So, like, that was very beautiful. Like, that was a very cool part.
That made it worth it. Cause
it did.
The food, even, like, the celebrity boat had the same food. Because they do a good job of having... So, it didn't feel like we were getting something special at all. But it was...
The food part?
Yeah. It was fine, though.
The taverna was, like, fine. Yeah. It wasn't anything, like, super exciting. Obviously, it was brought to you all kind of, like, on a sampler plate. Very quick, like, they knew you were coming, and it was almost like a buffet style. Right. It was like, here. So it wasn't like... It felt
a bit, like, depersonalized, just kind of like, pump and dump, get them out.
Right. It wasn't exactly the experience that you'd hope for, like, going into, like, a cute little taverna on an island off of Greece or whatever. It wasn't that experience, but still, wasn't terrible. And the monastery was very cool. Yeah. So that was, like, a kind of worth it. So what is worth it? Yeah. What's a fully worth it excursion?
If you've made it this far.
To be fair, we have a few.
Yeah, there are some. That's what we're trying to help you maybe when you're looking at what you're doing, what questions should you ask yourself, and what are you looking for? Like the money, what are you actually doing? How easy it is to do something on your own, and look up reviews. So some of the ones that are the most worth it for us, we're definitely on our Virgin Voyages cruise, and I think Virgin does a great job of being a cruise boat that's unlike other cruise boats in how it does everything, and I think their excursions are included in that. And
I really like the way that they like label them.
Yes, like the way they give you identifiers. So it's like, what is this? Is this an adventure? Is it a foodie thing? Is it
like a bougie thing?
Bougie, and then they give you good. Most places do this, but I like the way they do energy level.
Yes,
so you kind of have a sense of, do I need to be a certain level of fitness? Is this right for me? Am I looking to get this involved athletically or something?
Right.
So that was nice. And the two that we did that we really loved was one in Dominican Republic. We did waterfalls. It was kind of like, did it have a specific name? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, I'm just absolutely not going to say it right. It starts with the D.
But it's cool. I think it's very popular even if you're not on a cruise.
Yeah. Oh, no, it definitely is.
Yeah.
And you think you have to take a tour.
You can't just, so this is a good example of like, what we did through the cruise is essentially what you would have done if you drove to the place yourself or found a way to get there.
Right, exactly. And like, I sometimes don't love kind of being with the group of a tour like that, and even in this one I was kind of like, okay, like I kind of wish I was doing this on my own, but that was like not an option no matter what you did. So I don't think really matter.
Yeah, because it's not like when you get there, I don't think there was much to do outside of there. It's not like you could easily walk into a town, nor would you necessarily want to. So it was really worth it, and it was awesome. I mean, you got the same experience you would have if you got there on your own.
Yep.
And it also came with food, which is nice because it was super physical. You're kind of like hiking through these waterfall chutes and all this stuff.
Yeah, I have to say, first you did a hike, which we were nervous about, and then it was no big deal. Yeah. That's another thing to know. If you're like a even slightly avid hiker, anything,
or in shape at all.
Anything that says on a cruise like that it's going to be like a hike is gonna be like a walk in the park. Like they want to make sure that if that's not your thing, that like you're gonna have to go up some elevation. But if you do hiking really at all, it's not. We're so nervous about it, and then it was like not an issue at all.
Yeah, no, it was very easy. Granted, it was humid and hot, which we were also we've experienced before.
Yeah, but they took a lot of breaks. So like they make it accessible.
I think it's kind of like spicy food at a restaurant where they're like, if it's spicy at all, they're like, it's very hot, be careful.
That's actually a good way to put it.
That's kind of most risks. They don't want people to show up and be disappointed.
Yeah,
I think we're upset that they're like, wow, I didn't expect this. So
right. So easy hike. But it was, physical, and you were going down the waterfalls and you were swimming through the caverns and stuff. So that lunch buffet was the clutch.
It was nice. It was
so
included,
good.
Which was, we didn't have to think about it. And hand-rolled cigars on the side of the road.
You bought them, yeah.
That was pro. So.
The next one was probably my favorite, and I booked it because it was my 30th birthday, like gift to myself. And I remember I asked my dad, and I was like, should we splurge on this? And he was like, the answer's always yes. And I was like, that's why I come to you, Dad. Tell me to spend my money on travel. But it was swimming with sharks.
Which we've talked about like
a million times because
it's worth it. Yeah.
It's like one of my fears as a child because we always went to the beach, and I was always so scared of sharks. And then I was like, no, we should do this because it's like a thing. And snorkeling is very cool. It's like in a shipwreck. That was like part of it. And I was like, let's do this like conquering fear thing.
I still think my favorite part about it was you were so worried about nausea and everything, and you have that band, and then you save that person's whole day. Like they brought out the rum punch, and like it was definitely not smooth seas.
No,
it wasn't a terrible day, but it was choppy. You had to really work when we were snorkeling, and the ride back was definitely, it had its motion, the motion of the ocean. Yes. And this one woman was like done, like definitely sick, but you gave her that sick band, and it like literally like she went from green to like vibrant in 30 minutes.
I'm telling you, the relief band, if you're a you're a motion sickness sufferer like I am, I never go anywhere with my relief band.
I wish I had that in college because you saved me on my 30th birthday with that. I didn't believe, guys. I was not a believer. I'm like,
no,
this is some...
and I told him not to tell me because I was like, I need the placebo effect if that's what this is.
Nope.
And it was not. And that woman could also attest because she was like actually sick. She wasn't feeling sick. She was physically ill on the boat. And then almost immediately, it was good to go. I forgot about that. That's funny.
That's my favorite part. So yeah, those two were so worth it. Again, I think a couple similarities. I think the cost would have been similar, if not the same, or maybe even better through the cruise if you were to try to do it on your own. It would be somewhat difficult, I think, coming on a cruise to go and do it on your own, and not worth it when you could do it through the cruise.
Yeah, and like also, it's unlike the Mykonos one where you're on a bus and you're doing that. Like, this experience was going to be the same no matter where you booked it through. Like, you're always going to take a boat to the shipwreck, swim with sharks, snorkel, and then boat back.
Right.
Like, that was always going to be the experience.
It's not changing it because you're on the boat doing it.
Exactly.
So that's these are some things to think about when you're like, is it worth it doing it through the boat or not?
Right.
Like, a real quick example of ones that we are glad we didn't do. Like glad that we did our own excursion.
Yeah, we like made up our own thing.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about kayaking.
Yeah.
When we went to Dubrovnik,
Yeah.
we were able to take the transport. I think was part of just getting off. Like, it was kind of part of.
You
getting
literally
to
just got off.
Yep, and then I think we walked. Right, it wasn't very far.
Yeah, it was like we walked right into the city center, like through like the walled gate or the walled city.
Yep, and then we found kayaking. And it was
like a guy
around,
in a booth.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the kind of thing we looked up ahead of time. Everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
It was like renting a bicycle.
Yeah.
So no reason to do that through the boat. You had plenty of time. There were plenty of options. Get off and do something in the city.
Yeah.
So that was a perfect self-guided your own excursion.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, just to kind of expand on that just a tiny bit, like we rented those kayaks for like an hour, maybe two. I don't think we were out there quite two though. If we did rent it for two, we took it to like what they called a secret,
secret cove
cave.
or cave.
I was gonna say cove too, but I think it was cave. Beautiful waters, not that hard of a
people
kayak.
On like yachts swimming over there.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And then we went right back. We probably had at least 8 hours, so plenty of time to get there and back. We got back, and then we walked into the city, and we went into like this alcohol like liquor store kind of thing, and we found this very cool liqueur, so we bought it. We're talking to the women that were like our cashiers, and we're like, where's there to get food? And they sent us to like maybe one of the favorite restaurants I've ever had traveling.
Yeah, the Bosnian place.
It was so good.
It was awesome. So even being in what people might call a tourist trap, I guess, which is like the old city in Dubrovnik, there's still a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always funny when people are like, get away from the tourist area. I'm like, no, but Dubrovnik's old city is like, everyone wants to see that.
Right. I mean, all of Santorini is a tourist. You know what I mean? Right. It's just, there are some places that like you
dip into you
gotta go, but it is worth the time to like talk to people and try to get their opinions.
Ask people, preferably people who are from there, and maybe not just like seasonal workers, because they often don't know, but they had a lot of great options among things that looked more like generic.
Yeah, we couldn't tell. It was hard to tell ourselves. So another one was that same Disney cruise where the other people went kayaking. We explored Kiel, Germany on foot. And honestly, when you look up Kiel, Germany, not much coming up.
Yeah, I was surprised. This was a new itinerary and to kind of, explore Northern Europe.
I don't think they even do this anymore.
Maybe not.
I think they changed it.
It definitely, Kiel was not the most exciting place.
Yeah, it was a little interesting.
And Shelly and I have been to Germany, so I could see maybe if you wanted to check off Germany on your list. And there were some excursions that took you further out, but we weren't really interested in doing that.
No, and they were very expensive, and it was kind of like, we'd already been in Europe for like
Hamburg, right?
2 or 3 weeks. We'd been there a while.
Yeah, so for us, we were like, all right, let's get off the boat and walk into the little town and see what's going on. And it actually turned out to be really fun. Yeah. One, because this is like the 10th time Shelly's packed poorly and needed shoes. So I got her shoes again. Yeah,
actually, though, that was, yes.
You think she'd be good at packing, but.
You would think. I'm really terrible at it. But these are because those shoes, like, fell apart. Like, I literally was wearing shoes that we had to replace.
Well, like, you also like to use things until they're disintegrating.
Like, there's holes in them. And then you were like, absolutely not. We are stopping at this, what is. Like,
it was a TJ Maxx.
But it's like called TK Maxx, yeah. And got shoes. I still wear them. I like them a lot. But the other reason it was cool is because Bruce saw this museum that, like, I guess he had seen somewhere else, like on Reddit or like somewhere, and he was like, "Wait a minute, this is one of those body museums."
Yes, like what's cool about it, I think this is actually the first one, and the body exhibit museum that travels in the United States, I think, is a different version of it. Anyway, it was in Kiel.
Yeah.
So we just walked in and did it, and
It was very cool.
very cool. I've always wanted to do it, and it just happened to be there, so that was cool.
So then we stumbled upon like a brewery, and it just so happened that that's where the excursion, like one of the excursions came through. So like everyone had their little numbers.
Oh yeah,
and
this
they're
was
following.
funny. I was like,
Yeah. And they were getting like little taster glasses or whatever of different things, and like a pretzel to share among many. And Bruce and I were getting like
Full
whatever
liters
beer.
of
Yeah,
beer.
whatever beers we wanted, whatever food we wanted. And that excursion was like, I mean, I think it was in the $200 range.
yeah, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, and it was like, how much more did you really get here
Nothing.
than...
Yeah.
Well, I do think they went like a walking tour through Kiel, but again...
Yeah,
How much is there really there? I don't know. So that's an example of like, we ended up at the same place getting the same experience, maybe even better, because we got to choose what we wanted as opposed to do it like just getting a sample of everything.
on our own time.
On our own time. And we paid way less for it. And we actually, instead of doing the walking tour, which I'm sure you could have learned some cool stuff, so I'm not going to like knock it totally, but instead of doing that, we got to do that body museum, which is something that Bruce was super excited about. And I
shop at TK Maxx.
Yeah, and shop at TK Maxx. I was very excited too, especially because I teach science. It was literally about the inside of the body. So.
Yeah. And last but not least,
Santorini. Yeah, that. So this is again, this is back on our celebrity cruise. This one we did not have to buy the excursion for, so we did it on our own. There were some mistakes made here, but it was very cool. So when you get off the boat, you had to tender in. So you take this little boat that took you from the big boat. And we were the only cruise ship there, so we were very lucky in that way. And there's 3 ways to get from the water, where you're dropped off, obviously, the port, to the top, like the actual town, because it's a caldera. So
yeah, it's
like
straight up.
Straight up. Like hundreds of feet.
Yep.
So you kind of get choices. One is to take a donkey. I wasn't sure, like, ethically what that was about.
Yeah, there's mixed things, I guess, about the donkey. I think they've been using donkeys forever, but I don't know.
We just weren't sure.
Yeah,
so we're
I
like,
was like-
we'll wait. And then the other one was to take the gondola up, which I didn't want to take because it costs like €3. And I didn't want to spend the money. So
You won't
like,
spend €3 on that, but you'll spend like $5,000 on a cruise. or
like going
something.
on the
Yeah.
cruise. Yeah, I know. That's the way.
That's why we can
That's how I do it.
make the big purchases, I guess.
Yeah. So I was like, no, we can walk it.
Oh,
It's
God.
fine.
The donkey road.
So we walked the stairs, and that's a legit. I mean, they're stairs. It's not like it's not.
Well,
there.
they're like, it's like a winding switchback trail
it was
with some stair steps
So many
and
stairs
covered in donkey poop.
Like there were not many people on this stairs.
No,
like,
no one walked the stairs.
No, we were like a sweaty mess. It was like hundreds of feet up. I think that they counted the steps. Like, you know, you could see them like
yeah,
counting.
there's a number.
I forget what it was, but it was obscene. It was a lot of steps.
Mhm.
Like I think in the 800s.
Oh,
was,
like 1,000.
It was too much. We had to take many breaks. It was like it was too much because like you're in the middle of
there was a point. I
vacationing.
think there was a point when we were like, it was like the point where is it worth turning around and getting a donkey? It was
Yeah.
like no return. You had to just keep going.
Well, because it's not like you're like in hiking gear.
It just we weren't expecting it, and we
Yeah.
were already like sandals and
That's what I mean.
lazy gear. Yeah,
You're in like I think I was in a dress. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just is not.
And we
it's
had no
just not what you're
water.
expecting. We had no water. So, anyways, that was a mistake.
So just take the freaking donkey. Just
Oh, no,
just
or the
pay
gondola.
pay the guy.
or the gondola.
It's their living.
But my point is, we got up there. It's fine. You would have to take that no matter what. So one of those 3 things. We get up there and we kind of like explore the little town. It's cute, but we really want to go to the other side of the island.
How do you say that again?
Oh, I was going to ask you.
Is it like Oya? Oya? I'm gonna look it up.
I'll say we should know. We were there.
I know. I forgot though.
It's OIA. And it's the other side of Santorini.
I think it's like Ia.
Oh, I think that's right.
Yep.
I actually think that's right.
I don't know. Tell us if we're wrong. Correct us.
Yeah,
All the
come
people who
tell
love
us.
Greece.
So again, to get to the other side, you could walk, but that was like a 5-mile walk. We weren't sure how we would do 5 miles there back, especially because, you know, there is no guarantee that they'll wait for us. They won't wait for us, actually. So we took a bus, public transport. Again, this was like €2, $1.
And it
like
wasn't hard to
€1.
find it, no.
It was not hard to find. Was not hard to get on the bus. We took it to the other side, and we walked down the caldera this time into the different restaurants. Beautiful restaurants, beautiful like the white buildings that you always see in the pictures. Like we got to explore those little
Dude, the fact that
and
we could take one of those
crannies.
pictures and maybe have one or no people in it
Yeah.
is unheard of. We were very spoiled because these are the
Very
places that I think are part of the complaint of like thousands. You can't hold it, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
feel like if I went back to Greece, I'd probably take a smaller boat and go to islands that aren't as commonly traveled.
I agree. I would go back, but I would go to smaller islands,
Yep.
100%.
But anyway,
So
this was still a very fun excursion on our own and totally doable.
it totally was. We got like fish that we literally picked out of the thing, and then they made for us, and we got to go to this like, I don't know, the water where a lot of people were jumping in, but we decided against that because we didn't want to be wet coming back. But we like bought a coffee mug. You know, we got to like explore on our own pace and then take the public transport back easy again. And we walked down the Caldera and still didn't take the gondola. We walked down, but down's
Walking
much
down was
easier.
easy. I think we also had a beer too.
Yeah, so it's a little better. Actually, it's funny you're wearing the shirt
I
right
am.
now.
Oh my gosh, the white donkey.
Yeah.
I just realized.
Yeah, that's funny. So anyways, we made back to the boat plenty of time, and that was like what we would have done anyways. Like if we had like landed there on a plane, that's what we would have done.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing. The key is that some of these things, these excursions, are like not much different than you would do if you just showed up by yourself.
Right.
And some are very different. So that's kind of what you have to weigh is like, you know, would you be taking the double-decker bus around the city if you just landed there? Are you doing it because it's on a cruise? Could you do it on your own? Those are kind of the questions you should ask.
Exactly. So yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea when if you booked a cruise or you're going to book a cruise and you weren't sure if it's worth it to do it on your own. Look at these things. Look at the money. Look and see what the experience is like. If it's something you could do on your own, if it doesn't make sense to do it, you know, if it wouldn't be any different doing it through the boat or on your own.
Or if you're like not, you know, wondering if cruising is right for you in general and you're trying to kind of tease out the experiences you may have off the boat.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives you some insights.
Definitely.
Well, anyways, we won't be here next week because we're back to our every other week, but we'll see you the week after.
Yeah. See ya. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.